So today we are going to revise the chapter friction, and one by one I will remind you what all topics we did. Okay, and then we will see some important points, and then we will also discuss couple of MCQs. So let us start. So the first topic that we had seen was what is friction. Then we had learned about what causes the friction. Okay, so do you remember what is friction? Well, friction is a force that slows down moving objects or prevents stationary objects from moving. Okay, so this is what we mean by friction. And what are the causes of friction? There can be many causes. For example, because of rough surface, if there is unevenness in the surface, then that causes friction. What if surface is not even? It causes friction, right? And what if it is smooth? If it is completely even surface, what will happen then? It will cause less friction. Okay, now you will say that then why don't we make all the surfaces smooth? The reason is the smoothness or a lack of friction can be dangerous. For example, we won't be able to walk if there is less friction, and you might have observed this during rainy season. If it is a muddy area, it is super smooth, or if you are walking on ice, it is super smooth. If it is a glass surface, again it is very smooth. If you try to walk on such surfaces, you tend to fall down. Okay, so a smooth surface is not always good, especially while walking or while driving. Then the next point that we learned was friction in daily life. This was the point that we had studied. So cars and buses are able to move safely because of friction. Then brakes on cycles or car work because of friction. So there are numerous applications where friction is used. Then the next point that we had studied was disadvantages of friction. So what are the disadvantages of friction? Friction causes wastage of energy, it wears out the rubbing surfaces, it generates too much amount of heat. So these are the disadvantages of friction. The next point that we had learned was how to minimize the friction. Now there are various ways of minimizing the friction. For example, you can polish the surface to minimize the friction, or you can use various lubricants like oil to decrease the friction, and there are other ways also. For example, streamlining the object. Streamline objects uh, tend to face a less friction. So to reduce this fluid friction, what is done, we give a particular shape to the object. For example, एरोप्लेन को एक स्पेसिफिक शेप देंगे तो ही एरोप्लेन ठीक तरह से उड़ सकता है, बराबर. वाई? बिकॉज दिस स्ट्रीमलाइन शेप, it does reduce the pressure on the object. Okay, and so it minimizes the friction. The next point that we had studied was increasing the friction. कुछ जगह पे फ्रिक्शन इंक्रीज भी करना होता है, जैसे कि टायर्स हैं, टायर के डिज़ाइन ही ऐसे बनाए होते हैं कि थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा फ्रिक्शन उससे मिले. ओके, and this is very helpful. For example, even our shoes, they have this special kind of sole that increases the friction with the surface, because without friction we cannot walk or we cannot drive properly. Well, now let us see important points from the chapter. The first point is friction is a force that slows things down or prevent things from moving. So that's the definition of friction. Friction occurs due to interlocking of irregularities in the surfaces. Surface पे जो irregularity होते हैं ये एक दूसरे में अटक जाते हैं. Okay, and that's why friction is caused. So friction occurs due to interlocking of irregularities in the surfaces. The next point is Friction is necessary as well as several activities cannot be done without friction. Now let us try out few objective type of questions, or you can call it as MCQs from the lesson. So the first question, this is of course a textual question. Friction is, options are always a disadvantage, always an advantage, sometimes disadvantage, sometimes advantage, neither disadvantage nor advantage. So these are the options. What do you feel is the correct answer? क्या लगता है आपको कौन सा आंसर करेक्ट है? The correct answer is sometimes disadvantage and sometimes advantage. कभी कभी disadvantage भी होता है, कभी कभी advantage भी होता है. So correct option is C. Now let us try out few objective type of questions, or you can call it as MCQs from the lesson. So the first question, this is of course a textual question. Friction is, options are always a disadvantage, always an advantage, sometimes disadvantage, sometimes advantage, neither disadvantage nor advantage. So these are the options. What do you feel is the correct answer? क्या लगता है आपको कौन सा आंसर करेक्ट है? The correct answer is sometimes disadvantage and sometimes advantage. कभी कभी disadvantage भी होता है, कभी कभी advantage भी होता है. So correct option is C. Let us see next question. It is difficult to walk on ice because options are pressure is high, pressure is low, friction is high, friction is low. So what do you think is the correct answer? The correct answer is friction is low. And today's last question is, friction can be increased by make the surfaces smooth, lubricating surfaces, using ball bearings, making the surfaces rough. पहले तीन ऑप्शंस तो ये तो फ्रिक्शन कम कर देंगे, बराबर है ना. सरफेस स्मूथ करेंगे तो फ्रिक्शन कम होगा, ल्यूब्रिकेट करेंगे तो भी कम होगा, यूजिंग बॉल बेरिंग्स उससे भी कम ही होगा. फ्रिक्शन इंक्रीज कैसे होगा? बाय मेकिंग द सरफेसेस रफ. So this is the correct option, making the surfaces rough. Well, that was all for today. Today's assignment is you have to solve the exercise of choosing most appropriate answers from textbook. ठीक है, टेक्स्ट बुक में MCQ दिए हैं तो वो MCQ आपको घर में भी ट्राई करने हैं. मैंने 2-3 आपके लिए सॉल्व किए हैं, और कुछ है वो आपको ट्राई करने हैं, फिर अगली बार हम डिस्कस करेंगे. ठीक है बच्चों. सो दैट वाज ऑल फॉर टुडे. सी यू इन नेक्स्ट सेशन. अंटिल देन, टेक केयर. बाय बाय.